So, hello everyone, and oh my gosh, what a great day it is that we have the one and only Panache Desai. Panache, thank you for being with me today. I know that, like me, you've been pondering and exploring and asking your soul certain questions about this time that we're living in right now with the pandemic.
Thank you. It's great to be with you and great to be with this incredible global community that's tuning in from all over. Yes, indeed, it's been a very powerful time. It's been a time of being in a timeout, actually, being in a much needed pause, being in a reevaluation and redefinition of what it means to be human, of how we carry on beyond this post COVID-19 phase of life and living. And when everything first happened, my immediate call, as my call always is to service. I was in September the 11th 2001 in the ashram when we had the terror attacks in Manhattan. And it was a very surreal moment. We were pulled out of self-service and immediately went into the canteen and we saw what looked like a movie. It was beyond anything we could even comprehend, with these planes crashing into these buildings. It was unlike anything we'd ever experienced. And our first response, because we've cultivated who we are at the spiritual level, was immediately, how can we be of service? How can we help people? How can we support people? And so this has been a very dynamic time for me personally. We've been supporting a global community every morning with a call to calm meditation at 9 a.m. to restore that state of harmony and balance in the hearts of all human beings. Because God's got us. We're going to be okay. We thrive in uncertainty. No matter what life presents us, we know that we're being guided. We know who breathes us. And so when we operate from that place of calm, we're able to then take the next most peaceful step, make the next most peaceful decision. Because when we reorient our lives around that peace, we're reorienting the experience of our life around the essential self. And at that point, we no longer need to be overwhelmed by fear and by panic. We're able to simply be with what is, align with the totality of what's unfolding, and bring the fullness of who we are into being in every moment for the benefit of not just ourselves, our families, our loved ones, our work colleagues, and our greater community at large.
Mm-hmm. That's so profound what you were saying. And a few weeks ago, I was saying that, all the people on the other dimension, the Maya Angelos and the Wayne Dyers and all the greats, that have lived before us. I said, you can imagine them kind of observing us currently now on the planet, and them thinking they really needed a long time out. Our Mother Earth has been crying for quite some time, if you will. The planet has needed our attention. And it really does take a length of time of the silence. I believe you're talking about 9/11 happened when you were in the ashram. I don't know about you, but as children, we all started out. I know that you've got your beautiful children, and they start out being afraid of noise. I mean, we as children, we're terrified of noise, but as we become adults, we're almost terrified of silence.
Yeah,
So,
because we're afraid of, you see, what we're the most afraid of is who we really are at the deepest level. And this is why this is such an important time, is because we're being with that silence. We're getting in touch with what's going on inside, because there's no certainty to be found in the world. There's no certainty to be found anywhere outside of us right now. So this is where all of our years of practice, all of the blessings that we've received from the Maya Angelus and from the Wayne Dyers and so many other great beings in the Srikadata Maharaj and so many incredible gurus that have existed throughout time, we're standing on their shoulders. I mean, we're literally the beneficiaries of their sadhana, of their spiritual practice. And so we're able to navigate this time from a place of connection and to realize ultimately that we're enough, that we have what it takes to make it through whatever's unfolding, that we have what it takes within us to access the abundance, the health, the love, the connection, the creativity that we need now for this next phase of life and living. And so that silence is the truth of who we are. In my new book, You Are Enough, I speak of the essential self.
oh, I love that title.
Thank you.
You are enough. That's an ailment right there, isn't it? That's a disease of would be the people that don't believe that they're enough, and they're always fighting and proving that. I love that title.
It's actually in some ways the real pandemic, which is basically this feeling of not being enough. I've had the pleasure of working with people now consciously for over 20 years. And no matter what they've accomplished in their lives, no matter what they've gone on to do, every single human being that I've encountered, the root cause of every addiction, the root cause of every failed marriage or failed relationship or inability to be in relationship or be intimate, any health issue or challenge, it all stems back to this feeling of not being enough and needing to prove that we are. And so in the resolution of that, we're beginning to find now that people are able to build their lives on a platform of being enough. Like, what is it that we actually need? You know, how is it that we want to live? You know, let's not just let this be a moment in time that comes and goes and then life goes back to normal, whatever that normal means. Let's allow this to be a moment of fundamental redefinition where we begin to source our choices and decisions from what benefits not just us, from what benefits the collective, the planet, and the collective experience of being human. And so it truly is a very powerful time. And that silence is now more important than at any other point in time.
It's so powerful what you're saying, and it somewhat defines and explains. I mean, we talk about it a lot in our work about, please people wake up. First you must realize that you are asleep, and then you must die so you can be born. You cannot be born until you die, and you cannot die till you wake up. It's like if you're guided by your emotional body, your essence, your lack of feeling that spiritual connection says that you're not enough, then you're easy to be herded, like cattle. It's like, well, the doctor said, the religion said, the media says, the weather says, these are the things that define me. And to me, that's why, as we're talking about from chaos to connection, that's why this is so powerful, because as you're saying, if the people that are tuning in, that are listening, that are practicing your work, that are making that identification, that are waking up, if they can get that of themselves, they are enough. Because when you get that, you really question everything. You get back to that childlike part of your nature that you question what somebody's telling you. You may wind up with the same assessment, but you used your own mind for it. I know that for me, that's during this time hasn't, I've been excited about it. As a soul, I have been so excited about it. Not excited, of course, that people have needed to die, but excited about the fact that just like the Celtic shamanism of becoming a shamanic practitioner, a timeout, a sacred silence is what really brings you to the core so you can really discover, like you're saying, that you are enough. But the other part of it is, I hope this is just the beginning. Because if we would give this much attention to world hunger and this much attention to obesity and to addiction, think of how quick that we could come up with solutions that we could eliminate some of these ailments on our planet.
Exactly right. Well, the good news is this is the beginning of a 10-year window of time within which harmony and balance has to be restored in the hearts of all human beings.
Okay.
And what's being purged from us is every survival-based energy. Fear, lack, and scarcity is being removed from the human experience. And so we're in this timeline of awakening to this decade of the soul, to remembering that who we are is this essential self. And so, I would love to be able to say that this is going to be the beginning and end of it, but it isn't. We're going to have so much more that unfolds in this next 10-year window of time, where we're going to literally be relieved or freed of every form of density, every form of heaviness, everything that we've repressed or suppressed or denied our love inside of us, so that we can ascend in our personal vibration and frequency. Because really, we're in the age of vibrational transformation. Yes. We're living in the age where we're shifting out of survival into love, into joy, and into peace. And this ascension is facilitating the greatest shift in consciousness that we've all been waiting for, that everything that we've done up until now has been building up to. And so as we talk about the chaos is necessary to show you where you're dissonant, to show you where you're not in peace inside of yourself, because only that which isn't anchored in the truth can be disturbed. And our singular responsibility or place of participation in all of this is to allow it to be disturbed, is to allow it to be stirred up, is to be with that discomfort, because that discomfort creates the opening for the alchemy to occur inside. And the more that alchemy occurs inside, the more everything's revealed as the light. And so I, like you, have been very excited in and amongst dealing with the reality of people transitioning, people dealing with their businesses, people making some very hard choices right now, but recognizing that those very hard choices and these souls that have chosen to transition at this particular time, are
Mhm.
doing so in order for us to wake up as well. So every time I see that somebody's transitioned, my commitment to that soul that transitioned is to not waste this time, is to make all the shifts that I have to make internally. Every time somebody's business is shuttering or something's unfolding on an economic level, my commitment is to make sure that we evolve beyond survival in every way, that we're able to actualize our potential, that we're able to take everything that we've known, everything that we've read, everything that we've been told over and over again, and make it the moment to moment experience of our reality. And that's the possibility, the potential that we have now.
And it's so powerful. And as like you're saying, I mean, that it's not in vain. You know, that this moment that we just doesn't, that we don't cling and hang on to what getting back to the norm is, that we'll actually even give up that conversation, just forget everything that we've been. It's an open playing field. Okay, what pieces are we going to pull in now? But and that was one reason I look forward to talking to you, because I, you know, followed your work through the years, and I know how truly aligned that you are, and you're grounded in your core. And when it was so funny, at Easter, one of the reporters called me and asked me, you know, what did I want to say about Easter, you know, and what are the comments that you would like to make? And I went, this is the most exciting resurrection ever. It's the best one we've ever had. And she goes, tell me more. You know, tell me more about that. And she went, I've never heard anybody say that. You know, there's so much fear and there's so much drama out there. Nobody puts it that way. And I went, well, this is the greatest one that we've ever had, because we truly have the opportunity to die in all these falsehoods and limitations and the fear and everything that we've had, and really be born into something else. And that's just so invigorating. And so, Panache, with you, you intuitively get a sense that we're talking a 10-year window. Is there other reasons you feel that, or you just know what you know inside?
I've always known that we would be moving toward this decade of time, and
Okay.
that this window of time, this 2020 to 2030, maybe
Okay.
2050 window, is the most important window. And so everything that I've been sharing my whole life has been in preparation for this time.
Hmm.
So the community that I've been with has already been prepared for all of this, because they've heard me talk about this now for years. And
Yes.
actually, so many of them are now saying, "Well, you used to talk about this 4 years ago, and it's happening." And I'm like, "Yes,
Mhm.
this is why we have been prepared, so that we can go through this peacefully. The more we're able to remember who we are, the more we're able to remember that who we are is pure awareness, pure being, and pure potential. That the mind is an activity inside of that field of awareness, that the emotions are activities inside of that field of awareness, as is the body. But who we really are is this luminous presence. And what's being resurrected, or what we're returning to, is the truth of that luminous presence. That part of us that's infinite and eternal. That part of us that when we tap into on a feeling level feels like peace in our hearts. And this is where we have the opportunity now. Because you know what? Life may go back to some semblance of quote unquote normal, maybe. But you know what? The question is, are you going to allow it to be that again? And the bigger responsibility that we have as a spiritual community is to become completely accountable and responsible for every experience, for every thought, for every feeling. Because in oneness, life is as we are. And the more we're able to own everything as ourselves, the more we're able to make the most out of this transformational period of time. If we're busy making it about what the government's doing, or what's happening on a state level, or what's happening on a local level, and we're putting it outside of us, and we're continuing to not take responsibility for the totality of who we are as a human being, then we're further creating separation. And so I would, in this moment, encourage all of you to embrace what is going on inside, to recognize that everything is beginning and ending within. And the more you can come into the radical acceptance of who you are and what you're feeling, by welcoming it, by welcoming up all of the parts of you that need to be held, holding them in their heart, the parts that are afraid, the parts that are angry, the parts that are sad, all of these parts that we've denied about ourselves that just need to be loved. The more we can welcome them into our hearts and embrace them as a totality of who we are, the more we will complete this resurrection and this greater promise of re-emergence as stronger, lighter, and brighter than we could ever imagine.
So bringing up all the awarenesses of the viruses that you do have, you know, being grateful that you don't have COVID-19, but be real enough and authentic enough of what are your other viruses. the voice that's never spoken through you, the power to claim your life, the ability to be successful, or to find true happiness, all of those things. Now, you had mentioned with your book, is it out? You Are Enough? Has it come out
Yeah.
yet?
It came out in February. It became a national
Well,
bestseller.
excuse us, talk about timing, right?
Yeah, I know. It came out in February. It became a national bestseller. And the following week, we had the global pandemic, declared by the World Health Organization. And so I literally pivoted out of being on the 22 city book
Oh my
tour
gosh.
to all of a sudden just being of service and supporting a global community. And so it's been an amazing time. And for those people that were able to get their hands on the book before we began self-isolating and self-quarantining, this has been so powerful for them because it's almost become like their companion through this crisis.
Hmm.
And they've already been able to go through this pivot back into presence, back into peace, back into the truth of who we are. And for me, really, it's about returning to that samadhi, that state of union, that state of connection, and recognizing that that's available to us all right now. That's the end result of all of this, is that we're going to come back to this place of connection and light and presence that is just beyond everything that's playing out outside of us. And so it's been a powerful time for people. It's been a powerful time for myself personally. And I'm very grateful that people are continuing to support the book and continuing to dive into it and allowing it to impact them and to transform them out of this lie of not being enough into the truth of realizing that they always have been, and they always will be.
Just love that. And I love your excitement about it, and the way you empower others by the way that you approach that. And like you, I've been exposed to a lot of spiritual leaders and thought leaders in my life, but it's always magical to connect with someone like yourself, that you remain humble. I always say there's a big difference between being full of spirit and being full of yourself. And so your humility is magical, and it really, it touches people's hearts. I know all over the world. I'm very grateful, to the work that you do. um, and so for the people that don't have the book yet, what's an exercise, or what would you say would be just a couple of things for people to do right now, that say, I'm moved by what you're saying today, but tell me a couple of things that I can just get started on.
So a good place to start actually is with the 5 commitments that I wrote about in the book.
Okay.
First is to commit to knowing the essential self, to knowing who we are really at the deepest level.
Okay.
That yearning and that longing will begin to bring you into alignment with that experience. And so every day, commit to knowing the essential self. Who am I really? What is the truth of who I am? Who am I beyond these roles and these responsibilities, these expectations? Who I've been conditioned to become? Who am I? So
Mhm.
that's commitment 1, is commit to knowing the essential self. The second one is commit to a new past, present, and future. It's becoming very evident now through science and through the advancements of science that we don't have to continue to perpetuate the past. But literally by shifting our state of being, we can shift our neurology, we can shift our biology, and we can shift our reality. And that transformation happens at the feeling level.
Sure.
Take the time during this window of COVID-19 to bring a sense of appreciation to all of those moments in the past where you felt pain or suffering or sorrow.
Mhm.
Begin to bring light to those moments, begin to bring the truth of the love that you are to those moments, and allow them to transform. And in doing so, you'll stop living inside of the memory of yourself, and you'll start living inside of the present moment version reality of who
Oh,
you are,
that's powerful.
which is
That's a poster. That's a poster right there.
so that's the
That's
second one.
good.
Yeah. The third one is to commit to inner peace, because inner peace is the experience of the essential self. When we're feeling peaceful, we're experiencing our enlightenment. And so as much as possible, recognize that peace is your natural state of being. The fourth is commit to fulfillment. Where you start from is where you'll finish. If you start from fulfillment, you'll end up being fulfilled. If you start from being empty, you'll end up being empty. And so where we start from is where we finish. Commit to fulfillment. And then the last one, commit to unlimited possibilities. The more we begin to live through the lens of the soul, through the lens of the part of us that is infinite and eternal, and the more we experience life that way, the more all of a sudden we experience heightened synchronicities and possibilities that we couldn't even imagine. We begin to see that life has been perfectly created for us, and that every single step has been masterfully crafted by the divine itself, because we are the divine. So what's happening here is that the infinite ocean is experiencing itself as the drop, and the drop is the ocean itself. And it's time to end the separation and to be that ocean, to be that presence, to be that light, to be that love, to be enough now more than any other time in human history, to be enough for yourself.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you, Panache Desai, for being enough and for who you are as a soul and who you are as a being. I applaud you, and I'm just so grateful, and thank you for your work that you're doing in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's just great to be with you and great
Oh,
to be with everybody. And I can't wait to be with you all in person soon. And
thank you
just
for
warning,
being with
I'm
us.
going to hug you all and it's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to hug you for longer than you're meant to hug someone for. And I may even shed a few tears, but I'm just warning everybody right now. I'm warning you all right now.
Isn't that the truth? I can't wait to hug you. I can't wait to hug. You know, it's just like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so exciting. It's going to be like when I first came out of the closet and realized that publicly I could hug my wife and that it would be okay. Oh, to hug again. How special is that? Bless you so much. Thank you again for being with us.